Rent-A-Girlfriend is bad. The end. Alright, fine, I'll keep going. So Rent-A-Girlfriend is the punching bag of the anime community. Seriously, there are plenty of videos decrying the show for being plain terrible. But is it really that bad? Yes. This show sucks hard. I was shocked to see how low the show fell on several occasions. It was honestly jaw-dropping. What do I mean? Well, let me proceed and I'll explain why. Might as well get out of the way the worst character in the show. And sadly, it's the one I had to deal with the most. We might as well talk about the worst aspect of the show by a wide margin, our main character, Kazuya. For context, at the start of the series, he got dumped by his first girlfriend, Mami, and it made him rent out Chizuru, and due to some hijinks, they have to pretend to be a couple to make their grandmas happy. Now, by how I describe Kazuya, he doesn't seem to be too terrible. A dumbass who has to keep lying to make his grandma happy. How bad can Kazuya be? I mean, how truly evil he tried to rape Chizuru in the first episode.
What?
Yes, he tried to do the no-no on her while they were hiding from their grandparents. Thankfully, Chizuru gives him a falcon kick and sends this piece of garbage flying away, which is so far my favorite moment of the whole show. But being serious again, it does not bode well for how our main character will act if they did an attempted rape in the first episode. And boy, the show really does its best to make Kazuya truly unlikable. He feels sorry for himself, seeing himself as a complete loser, and yeah, the whole world would agree, but he never tries to improve himself to be a better person. Yeah, I get for the first few episodes, he was recovering from his breakup with Mami, and he roped Chizuru into basically being his pretend girlfriend for the time being. But Kazuya has this attitude for the whole season, and he gets really annoying very fast, and the show barely does anything to confront him about this annoying behavior. And he doesn't change. Like, dude, if you don't feel like you're worthy of being with Chizuru, even if it's a rental thing, then maybe you could, I don't know, put work into yourself and be a better person? You would think nutting and being in his bedroom all the time would help this dummy actually self-reflect and see his flaws and try to become a better person. Just a thought. Oh yeah, speaking of nutting, he's a complete pervert. He has fantasies of his ex getting plowed, either by her new squeeze or by him. He nuts to the thought of Chizuru in the shower, and he spends way too much time focusing on the bodies of the ladies in the show. Just wow. What a way to make us like the main character. Really impressive. But there are other popular anime characters who are perverts, so why do you give them a pass but not Kazuya? And to anyone who will make this defense in the comments, we like those characters despite the fact they are perverts. Best example is my main man Jiraiya. Now yes, he has perved on a lot of ladies, and you can make the argument he might be worse than Kazuya in this regard. However, he has a lot of positive traits. His wisdom, his masterful fighting skills, and his humbleness. He guides Naruto and helps him to master his power and become a great man. And when push comes to shove, Jiraiya is willing to lay down his life to save the world. Kazuya is just some loser. His negative traits do not help his character, and in fact, make him extremely hateable. And they aren't even subtle, so you can't even ignore them, especially his perverted fantasies. Which makes me feel very uncomfortable just thinking about. A lesson for any writers listening. If you're going to make a perverted character, you have to do one of these three things. 1. Have the pervness as a noticeable part of their character, but give them several good traits so the audience can still like them. 2. Have them be very pervy or simp-like as a main part of their character, but have them be badass in some other ways so they aren't just a bad joke. Or 3. Have them be a joke side character and have them get called out for their perverted nature and actively punish them for their actions. The problem is the writer tries to do the first and third option for Kazuya, and well, it doesn't work. But due to the length of time we have to spend with him, all the pervert and whoop rope you jokes start to grate on us since it's always in our face, and it loses what little endearment and humor it had. And we don't form a bond with him, and we start to hate this asshole. Essentially, more is less, especially when it comes to gags. If the amount of these jokes were reduced, I assure you, Kazuya would be a far less hated character. And maybe actually a decent person! But that doesn't mean Kazuya doesn't have his good parts. He was willing to admit to his grandma that Chizuru wasn't his actual girlfriend. Granted, that was because he was backed into a corner and Chizuru came in clutch to save the day, but the fact he was willing to own up to his mistake, quite respectable. He also told the truth about Chizuru to his friend Shun after his rental girlfriend broke up with him to cheer him up. It's a true homie move if I ever saw it.
Inspiring.
He saved Sumi from some perverted punks, though Kazuya only did this because Chizuru would have found out if he didn't. Selfish, but hey, he did the right thing at least. The biggest positive he did all season was saving Chizuru from drowning after she fell off the boat, so I'll give Kazuya that. But overall, it doesn't make up for his many unlikable traits, since a few good things don't make up for a mountain of bad or annoying things he did throughout season 1. Here's another piece of advice for all you writers out there. If you want the audience to root for the main character, make sure they are likable in some way, or at least make them go on an arc that will get them to that point. And also, don't try to give them too many unlikable or bad traits. Otherwise, you'll get someone like Kazuya, who the audience will not root for, and probably want him to get beat up brutally, and someone to teach him proper manners. And here's the thing, Kazuya didn't need these traits or moments for the story to work. If they just had him have confidence issues and problems with talking to girls, you could still have most of the season play out the same. A lot of the situations in the series would still stem from his lack of experience with both areas, and the story is significantly better since we don't have a self-hating attempted rapist as the lead, but just as a regular guy with some issues. So his good moments won't be bright spots for an otherwise poorly written character, but instead, moments that elevate his character and actually make us want to root for him. In a nutshell, have him be someone with flaws, but a person we want to see overcome his challenges and get what he wants in the end. But let's be real, most of you guys don't watch the show for Kazuya. You watch it for only one reason. Well, actually 4, which we shall dive into. Okay, so Kazuya sucks hard, but let's be real guys. 99% of you guys only watch the show for the ladies. And since they are the most integral part of the series, the ladies have to be well developed, or at least likable, so the audience can care about them. So are they any good?
You serious?
Hey, let me have faith, even for a moment. Okay, let's start with Chizuru, since by default, she's the most developed of the 4 by the fact she has the most screen time. So she is the rental girlfriend that Kazuya gets after Mommy dumps his ass, and thanks to some hijinks and Kazuya being a dumbass, the pair are forced to pretend to be a couple to make their grandmas happy. And she spends the first season trying to cover for Kazuya's dumbassery, while also trying to guide him to improve himself so he can get a real girlfriend. Granted, she doesn't do a good job with the latter, but it's Kazuya, so it's already a lost cause. But there's more to her than just Kazuya. She has dreams of becoming a professional actor, and she uses the funds from her side gig as a rental girlfriend to help her out, with it being used to pay for her acting classes. And as someone who knows acting classes do cost a pretty penny, and require a lot of hard work and time to master it, I have big respect for you, Chizuru. And you will probably succeed, since if for a while you had no real feelings for Kazuya, but yet you had to act madly in love with him, you will probably get an Oscar soon enough. And when I said Chizuru had no real feelings towards Kazuya for a while, well, she starts to develop feelings for him.
You serious?
Like I get it, he saved your life, and you know of his other positive qualities. But come on, Chizuru, you can do way better than him. But hey, at least she's somewhat likable. The same can't be said for one of the other ladies. Next up, Kazuya's ex, Mommy, aka Gustavo Fring.
But those things are strictly between him and me.
Now it's left to me to deal with him.
Out of all the shows Rent-A Girlfriend would borrow from, I never thought Breaking Bad would be one of them. Okay, being serious, there's not much to Mommy aside from being the closest thing the show has to a main villain. She usually puts up a cheerful, happy girl look, but she's actually an asshole. She dumps Kazuya for no reason, then she spends the whole season playing with his heart by revealing some very personal information about him to their group of friends and Chizuru. Then she teases him to give her another chance. Then later, Mommy kisses him at the beach and almost makes Kazuya break up with Chizuru. And bear in mind, she didn't know Chizuru wasn't Kazuya's actual girlfriend. So from her POV, she almost ruined a good and healthy relationship. Then when she does find out, Mommy tries to blackmail Chizuru in the season finale to not fake date Kazuya anymore. But even despite this Gus Fring level of intimidation, Chizuru asks her to give Kazuya another chance, but Mommy said no and pisses off because she couldn't get what she wanted. Yeah, I doubt she'll be the lady Kazuya will end up with. It would be terrible for both characters. For Kazuya, it takes away one of his few positive developments, him moving on from Mommy and focusing on Chizuru. Yeah, he's still a bit down about the whole thing, but who wouldn't be after bringing it with their first girlfriend? But having him go back to Mommy would basically make him go back to square one. Not like it would be a big step back, but I digress. And for Mommy, giving her Kazuya would validate her very poor treatment of him throughout season 1, with no real consequences for her actions. So no, don't put your betting money on this asshole. Okay, let's try Ruka. She's the psycho hot girl you always wanted. Then you realize she's a much bigger headed than you thought she would be. To explain, after meeting him on her fake date with Shun, and later on having him save her from being hurt, she falls madly in love with him and wants to be his actual girlfriend. So much so that Ruka threatens to blackmail him by saying if Kazuya doesn't date her, she'll spill the beans on the actual nature of Kazuya and Chizuru's relationship. Okay, so not a big step up from Mommy in terms of likability, since she forced Kazuya to be her boyfriend through blackmail and make him feel bad. But hold up, there is some interesting stuff with Ruka that raised her up from Mommy. Ruka has a condition where her heart produces low beats. It makes her life feel very dull. But Kazuya raises Ruka's heartbeat and makes her feel alive. So at least she wants Kazuya for a good reason. Not to mention, even though Kazuya and Chizuru are not actually dating, she sees how nice he treats Chizuru and she wants that treatment as well, essentially offering him to be his real girlfriend, which offers a dynamic with Ruka pulling Kazuya in one direction while Kazuya's feelings with Chizuru pull him in another. While it is a dynamic that is sometimes fun to watch, it really doesn't matter in the grand scheme of the series, which I'll talk about in a bit more detail soon. But overall, while a big step up from Mommy, it's not that great either. Alright, let's see if Sumi's any good. For context, Sumi's deal is she's an incredibly shy girl who is trying to get out of her shell, using the rental girlfriend's services to help her, but to limited progress. But Chizuru, a good friend of Sumi, sets up a date with her in Kazuya to help Sumi become more outgoing. And for what limited screen time she has, she isn't terrible. Granted, she doesn't have much development due to her lack of screen time in this season, but she isn't unlikable. She has a relatable issue, and she's doing her best to improve herself, even if it's incredibly difficult for her.
Inspiring.
But even if all the ladies were fairly developed and we got some great insight into their characters, there's still a bigger issue at foot. The problem with the show is that you know Kazuya will end up with Chizuru, since it's super clear that Kazuya only wants her. And it's very clear Chizuru has at least some feelings for Kazuya, so we can connect the dots and see what will happen next. Now, if you're going to do a will they or won't they story, and you want the audience to wonder if the main character will end up with the main lady, don't make it clear that the said girl also likes him back, because you will drag out the story way longer and get on everyone's nerves, since if they already like each other, then just get to the point already. And don't make one of the ladies an unlikable sociopath, because why would we root for her? And don't make it clear he's only dating one of them to placate her so she doesn't spill the beans and won't cry about it. And don't have them go on a date with one of the other ladies because he did it to make the main girl happy. You get what I mean. All of these subplots reinforces Kazuya's desire to end up with Chizuru. This idea could work if the story ended sooner, with Kazuya's confession to Chizuru being the ending of the story. However, since Kazuya walked back on his confession, the entire show will be stretched far past than it should be. But more importantly, it makes me furious that I have to spend another season with this jackass! Okay, fine. Let's focus on the other characters because they have to be better than Kazuya, right? Please. Okay, so Kazuya sucks and the main leads aren't much better, but the other characters have to be good, right?
No.
Hey, there's something here. I know it. Well, Kazuya's grandma is pretty fun. She's spunky and has some fun interactions with Kazuya, plus she's a gamer, so very nice. I like how Kazuya's parents make fun of him for being a complete loser who can't get a girlfriend.
No way, honey. We're talking about Kazuya here.
Of course. Right, it's Kazuya.
Kazuya's friends are also nice as well. Granted, they do have plenty of Kazuya's perverted traits, but compared to him, they are almost as innocent as Midoriya. I like how Kiba gave Kazuya a reality check for breaking off with Chizuru initially. but also talks to Chizuru about why she should give Kazuya another chance, telling her the story about when he and Kazuya were kids. He accidentally knocked over Kazuya's plant he was growing for a school project, and even though he tried to fix it, when it grew, everyone thought it was a weed. But Kazuya didn't give up and tend to it until one day, it sprouted into a beautiful flower. Knowing Kazuya's commitment, and despite Kazuya's many faults, he pleads with Chizuru to give his friend another chance, which does kickstart Chizuru having her own feelings for Kazuya. So thank you, Kibe. You actually helped progress the plot. Also, after accidentally stealing Ruka from his other best friend, Shun, Kazuya has Chizuru go on a date with Shun to cheer him up. Kazuya admits he is only renting Chizuru, and the two of them aren't actually dating. This revelation helps to heal Kazuya and Shun's relationship, since it reveals Kazuya has no Riz, and Shun makes fun of Kazuya for being a jump still, which I can get behind. But regardless, the two of them are back to being the best of friends, with Shun keeping Kazuya and Chizuru's secret like a true homie.
Inspiring.
And the other good side characters are... excuse me, let me check this out. Oh, that's it. Dang it. But did it have to be this way? Did Rent-A-Girlfriend have no real potential? Or it could have been something great? Let me explain. You might have noticed that aside from Kazuya being an actual piece of garbage, this show doesn't create much anger for me. The simple reason is the show didn't have much potential to begin with. This show isn't My Hero Academia, where it fumbled hard and ruined a lot of great things about the series, or Fire Force, where it has a lot of potential to be great, but it's held back due to several reasons. Rent-A-Girlfriend's a rom-com about some loser renting a hot chick. But make no mistake, just because the show's potential was low to begin with, it doesn't excuse its execution. It was planned out Kazuya was going to try to rape Chizuru. It was planned out Kazuya was going to act like a moping loser throughout season 1. And it was planned to have Kazuya act like a pervert and show it in a very uncomfortable manner. The point is that the execution ruined what little could be worked within the show. However, I will try to come up with some fixes and try to go beyond what is laid out in the series and correct the issues I laid out and hopefully make something fairly competent. Now, they could do these ideas later on in the series, or we'll do them eventually, but I'm not holding my breath. Anyway, let's proceed and try to make something from the show. So of course, the first big thing is to make sure Kazuya isn't an attempted rapist. You know, it's probably the best idea, just saying. But I also made Kazuya realize his feelings for Chizuru later on, around the season finale. Have him spend time with each lady and give fair reasons and motives for why he may want to go with any of these ladies, and make the audience wonder who he will eventually end up with. However, at the end of season 1, he sees Chizuru as the girl he loves most, and then spends the next season building up his confidence to confess his feelings for her. And by the end of season 2, he would tell her the truth, and the story would end with them as a couple, with Kazuya's arc ending with him being super confident and has a good self-image. The complete opposite of where he started. Of course, you might be wondering why I'm making the show longer when I criticize it for not ending sooner. Well, I was talking about it in one way, where the ladies in one way or another push him to more to Chizuru and end it quicker. In contrast, this version would play around with the concept and explore the characters more, allowing for greater development for the whole cast. And with the ladies, I would bring them all in the same time early on to give them equal amounts of screen time, to go into more detail about their characters and expand on them. Maybe we get more details on Mommy's Gus Fring deal and why she's like that, so we might be able to understand her and kind of see the possibilities she could end up with Kazuya. I mean, everyone with half a brain would know she wouldn't end up with Kazuya, but hey, it's worth a try. But the person I want to focus on the most is Kazuya, since he's the biggest thing holding the show back, and I want to fix him and make him someone the audience can at least tolerate. I know it will be a hard task, but I can cook something up. So aside from making Kazuya less rapey, I would try and put him on an actual arc to make him a better person. Now, the series itself does tease the good side of Kazuya. Stories from his friends about his good traits and Kazuya's noble actions sprinkled throughout the series. But as I said before, it's not enough to save his character, so let's expand on it. Perhaps for the arc with Kazuya, he tries to improve himself. He could get into shape and clean himself up to improve his self-image. But more importantly, he stops feeling bad for himself. He could go to a self-help group or ask his friends to help him change his attitude. Of course, he doesn't need to be a Chad by the end of season 1. He can still be a bit of a loser since it takes a long time to turn yourself into a better person. But it would be a welcome sight to see him change and have him be a very different person than who he was in episode 1. Plus, it would be a good lesson to the audience that true change takes a long time to achieve. And we can see the slow transformation of Kazuya throughout the show. Changes his mannerisms, changes his habits, changes to see that he's not a pervert anymore. So when he does end up with Chizuru, he will be a radically different person. But he still has his best aspects, so we're not looking at a wholly different person. Now, would these story ideas make Rent-A-Girlfriend a great show? Probably not. It's a show which, at its core, is just meant for dumb entertainment. Even with my suggestions, it will still follow the same formula in the storyline, which don't demand much in terms of thinking. But it will be far superior because it would have a likable main character with a good arc, and not just have a pervert MC who has way too many ladies interested in him. So just as one last reminder, just because a show never had potential to be amazing, doesn't mean it had to be terrible. Rent-A-Girlfriend is a show where the potential is so low, I can't say I'm disappointed. Don't get me wrong, the show is bad. It has a main character who finds new ways to be unlikable and unrootable. The predictability is painfully clear, and it leaves no room for any thought of, will they or won't they? And just wastes your time. But what makes it so annoyingly bad is that it had no reason to be this level of poor quality, with the scale of the story being so small. You aren't telling a story of a normal man who declines into a truly evil person. You aren't telling the story of the greatest hero ever. You aren't telling an epic story of a galaxy far, far away. You're telling the story of a chump who has way too many girls interested in him. It's not that deep. The only thing that saved the show from being absolute trash were a few good moments and characters sprinkled throughout the show, which often made the show slightly more bearable. But it's not enough. Not even close. Anyway, enough bullshit. The final score for Rent-A-Girlfriend is...
Okay, Ringo! Spotlight's not big enough for the mobile device.
3 out of 10. And I don't expect to be much better after this.
Just when you think this show is terrible, something wonderful happens. What? It ends.
Thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and sub to this channel. I would appreciate it a lot. If you're interested in my content, please go watch the videos on the screen. I think you guys would enjoy it. That's all I have to say. Take care everyone, and have a good day.